Garfield. Most people know him as that one ultra-popular comic strip character. Others might have only discovered them because of that one cartoon that was always playing of them. And some may just know him as the Orange Cat, voiced by Chris Pratt. But within the horror sphere, or just generally, there have been bizarre and disturbing things like Garfield, Gilbert Garfield, and Lasagna Cat. But none of these are topics for today's video. As you could have guessed, if I wasn't too cryptic with my thumbnail and title, we're covering a game I have a bit of a soft spot for. This game is called The Last Monday. In today's video, we'll be going over this 2-year-old game's story and hidden lore, as surprisingly, there's quite a bit. As of recording this, the Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion video is over 7 weeks late, and it's gonna be even later because I refuse to sully a 40+ page script with my sick voice, which you can all likely hear right now. But the show must go on, so that's another reason why I made this video in the first place. But before we get into the fun stuff, on to my intro. Hello everybody, it's me, Dregobob, and welcome to today's video covering, well, you already know what. We're less than 1,000 subs away from the second sub goal of 20k, which I only set up because we blew the 15k sub goal out of the water so fast. At this point, I may as well set the goal to 25k, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. On screen right now should be art from the many brilliant creators on my server. Speaking of, it's a lovely place for creatives like musicians, artists, and fellow creators to have a community of their own. We're already nearly to 700 members, and we have a little section dedicated to other horror creators on my server, where you can also request your own channel. But we're very, very selective. So, let's see how quick we hit 1k over there. Moving on, let's get onto the game's itch.io page. In terms of just about everything, it's bare bones. There's simply an image showing the game's title, the controls, and a simple description reading, "This lasagna-loving feline has gotten locked out of the house and needs your help." Simple enough. Booting up the game, we're treated to a simple square aspect ratio for the game, making everything feel small, like we're trapped or confined. Beginning the game, it might seem random at first, but the sun in the sky appearing as soon as we press enter could have greater meaning when we consider everything we're about to witness in this game's story. But that will come later. We're dropped into a void. The only things here are the eerily clear skies, the aforementioned sun, and a bare-bones road stretching out in 4 directions. On top of this, there's also a stop sign and John's house. Easily the most detailed and lively place here. Beyond this place, there is nothing but an endless blue expanse. There's also a song playing. This song is called When We Were Kids. Moving over to John's house, it's here we find Garfield sitting on the front porch, kicking his legs back and forth like it's any other day. He plainly asks us if we can go and find the key that he lost. So, going around the house, we find a doghouse. In it, we find the garage door opener. Only inside of this doghouse, we also hear this strange and honestly creepy ambience. This garage door opener isn't the key, but we can still use it to get inside of the house. Inside of the garage, we see what looks like John, but only for a second, as Garfield quickly snatches the garage door opener from us and shuts it, and tells us not to go into the garage. Though John tosses something out, a disc that lands next to the only tree in the world. A disc that reads, "Play Me." Interestingly, we find Garfield was also sitting on the key, though the key isn't for the front door. It's for the basement in the back, which we open and fall into. Though, with Garfield being there as soon as we look back up, I wouldn't doubt it if they pushed us in. Though our attention is very quickly drawn away as we're given another set of commands from Garfield. It's upon spraying away this first one, they ask us to pick up a walkie-talkie so we can communicate while down here. Though, the greater basement is bizarre. It resembles something more similar to a doomsday prepper's place than anything else. Behind some larger crates, we can even find a cage with a notebook containing what looks to be children's drawings. The milk atop this crate points to it likely belonging to Garfield himself. Garfield then gives us another request. His master is keeping something from him in a safe. Using some keys we find, we can open a locker and Garfield's cage. Getting a closer look at these drawings, we find something interesting. We find various drawings from who we can guess is Garfield, but they're contradictory in places. The first image says stay inside, but Garfield was outside. The further we go into these pages, the more it feels like they're from someone else altogether. In fact, some pages almost make it seem like Garfield is the bad guy, and like these scribbles are from a child that was trapped here. And John, of all people, was his captor. But some of the pages here are even more bizarre. Dreamlike at that. With one stating, outside is dreams, and Kitty eated everything. Only inside safe. Nonetheless, we managed to find the code scribbled here in this notebook. Using it, we can access a safe and inside discover a cat idol. But opening the safe causes a loud alarm to sound. Upstairs, we hear rushing footsteps. Garfield yells at us to go and find a place to hide, and we do so in the form of the locker we found earlier. We see John as he runs past. Garfield tells us to run upstairs before we're captured, and that we do. But turning back and looking at John, something is very wrong with him. While yes, he looks angry, he also doesn't say a single word as he pursues. But as we get upstairs, we lock the door behind us using a bar. From here, we don't hear from Garfield again, but we're tasked with painting over the remaining sigils. The interior of the house hardly resembles what we saw outside. It's dingy, old. There's a massive pile of garbage in the corner, and only the most bare bones of things remain. A stove, fridge, more supplies. The front door is also blocked off with a couch, and it also looks like John was reading some old books. And he's seemingly been held up in here for a long time. Entering the bedroom, we can find a piss bucket and 2 mattresses. Under the bed, we also find a light bulb, which we can use to light up the bathroom, discovering the mirror shattered, a message on the wall reading, "I am not the master." That's very odd. Though we do find the final sigil. Covering it with the spray paint, the screen glitches, and Garfield speaks to us again, and for some reason, tells us to toss the relic into the oven. Back outside, looking at the TV, we can see John's house. That same song from the beginning of the game playing. The oven is also wide open, spitting flames out. Upon tossing the idol inside, we cut to normalcy. Our new task is to put the lasagna in the oven, and according to Garfield, clean up our toys. Everything is right again, but no John? Are we John? Who are we? Nevertheless, the TV now has a DVD player, but attempting to play it causes it to disappear outright. Interacting with it a second time makes Garfield say, "What disc?" Outside of the house, we can also see Odie, but we can only go out once we've put away our toys. Though after this, we're told that he's been digging in the yard, and we need the shovel from the garage. Though the key is just at the end of the hall. Garfield, did you do this? We're brought into a black void platformer we can navigate. Partway through this, it snaps to a heavenly scene, where we jump across clouds and collect coins on our way to the key. Upon doing so, we're brought back to the house, Returning and grabbing the shovel, we're tasked with digging up what Odie buried. And it's outside. We find 3 inconspicuous spots we're meant to dig in. We find a bone, a ball, a newspaper, and a dog's lifeless body. Upon doing this, Garfield appears, the lasagna timer having completely run out. The house is burning, and Garfield looks angry. Odie is gone, Garfield having taken his position. Then we cut to a completely different scene, all the way back in September. What seems to be the earliest point of the game at this point, as the calendar in the house read October. This time, our character speaks, though things are different. We're somewhere in the woods. We have that cat idol with us, and it's communicating with us using the current mission text in the top left corner. According to what this text and our character says, they've been out for a while, and this place, far from the rest of the world, is their new home. But why? Why would we be blacked out? How would we get here while blacked out? As we explore this property, it becomes slowly but surely more and more apparent that this place is the house we were in up until we burnt the idol. The interior matches up eerily well, and as we walk around the place, we collect various items, ranging from a meat snack to a weapon we find in an abandoned truck. After collecting everything that can be collected, we question this voice again, asking whose place this was. The voice replying, "It's ours," that nobody was coming here. They again ask this voice, questioning what they mean, how long they were out, what this voice made us do. But it silences us, and a door opens. This is the big reveal. We're playing as John, adding another question in the form of who we were playing as previously. But this answer is more. This voice we're hearing and the idol are one and the same as Garfield. The reason John says nothing while chasing us is because his tongue is gone and he is a slave of this voice. John was stripped bare, forced to remove his own tongue to humiliate and utterly crush him. They make it very clear who is in charge. We are Garfield's servant. They are the real master. After we dress back up and retrieve the wire cutters, we're told to get in the car. And we do just that. We cut to a bit later. We're in what looks to be the same general area. The houses are sparsely laid out. This is perfect for what the voice wants. And so, we follow all of its orders. We cut the phone line, severing whatever hopes anyone would have to alert the authorities to what we're doing there. We silence the house's dog with a meat snack. And then, we go inside. We're forced to break into the house and destroy an entire family. For this final segment, we play as a terrified child, unaware his entire life was just completely and utterly blown away like it was nothing. And we then watch from their eyes as John, possessed by this entity, kidnaps them on its command. It's worth noting that his eyes here are similar to that of a cat, to the way Garfield looks at us when we burn the lasagna. We then cut to later, with us now inside of the cage that we originally believed held Garfield. But in truth, it was for our character. the one we played as at the beginning of the game. But that begs the question of how and why. But once more, I'll leave it at that, as it'll come into play once we understand what is truly going on. Here in the basement, John sits slumped over. We can yell, but they're unresponsive. It's likely we've been out for a while with how hungry our character is, so after smashing several roaches, we eat some pizza and drink a soda John left us. But the soda tasted funny, and the child blacks out. Though we find ourselves in a new place. We find ourselves moving down a long hallway towards a light at the end of the tunnel. Interestingly, on either side of us we can find doors emanating that same noise we heard in the doghouse. But it's upon getting to this light, we begin ascending a set of stairs in that same cloudy environment. Only as we ascend this staircase towards the sun, we find those same sigils we painted over originally. As we pass through each of them, we hear a low ding, until finally we hit the last one, which comes back with a crack of thunder, and reveals us lying in the floor of the basement. The cat idol sitting directly in front of us, almost appearing as if it's staring down at us. After this, we cut to later, our character caged, watching an episode of Felix the cat. This particular episode is called Switches Witches. But this isn't for nothing. This particular episode is the Halloween episode, one where Felix goes about scaring people, going on a tangent where he swaps people's body parts around, even his own, up until they have their fortune read by an owl, where antics ensue with a witch chasing him until transforming into the girl he was fated to meet in his fortune reading. The use of this episode is quite interesting when we think about the parallels we can squint and see. For one, there's the body swaps we see early into the episode, representative of this entity hijacking John's body to do the disgusting things we see in the game itself. These things representing the scaring Felix gets up to in the beginning of the episode. Because, of course, the destruction of an entire family is comparable to a Felix the Cat episode where he scares random people. We haven't seen the parallels to the fortune reading or witch yet, so let's keep an eye out for those going forward. Later, we see John in the basement spraying bug spray about. Despite the things he was forced to do, he isn't entirely irredeemable, as he's at the very least trying to improve our kidnapped character's quality of life. Though, as we try and talk to him, John breaks down and begins to cry. Later, we awake again. We're given the option to eat or not to eat, but no matter what we choose, the hot dog is consumed, revealing a question from John, asking about the symbols we saw earlier in this dream-like sequence. Upstairs, we can also hear what sounds like the hammering of nails. The next scene we cut to features more Felix the cat, this time featuring the witch chasing Felix about after the fortune reading. Nevertheless, as we watch Felix get engulfed in flames, Garfield appears, taking on the form of, well, as you guessed, Garfield. This is the first time in the timeline they take on this form. Perhaps they canonically took inspiration from Felix to disarm the child. Very fitting considering Felix is animated media's progenitor. Garfield plays the role of our savior, freeing us from the cage we had been locked in. They beckon for us to run and go outside, and we do so, bringing us to the cartoonish void outside of the world we first met Garfield in. They beckon to us again, asking to play a game using firepower. Taking this burning gift they give to us, we do a little target practice, which I ace. Behind us, a massive maze we must navigate through then forms. On top of navigating, we also must use this power to blow away any lasagna critters that come our way. Finally, as we reach the end, we're met with Garfield and Odie, though something's not right. We're brought to reality. The final lasagna person we used our firepower to deal with sprawled out over the floor beside their car, at the pumps of a fuel station. The implications of this single, out-of-place thing from the world Garfield, this entity made for us, is disturbing on its own, but we're not done. Entering the convenience store, we head to the back, and inside, we find our final lasagna critter, hiding in the darkness. Now revealed, it cries. The illusion is broken as soon as we pull the trigger. If it hadn't been obvious before, this firepower was the weapon we discovered in the truck at the beginning of the game. Meaning the maze we wandered through, blasting away these lasagna things, were also likely real people. And the maze was in reality our warpath to the gas station. This particular segment also partially mirrors the Felix the Cat cartoon. The owl predicts Felix will meet a girl that night, but in reality he's met by a witch. We can take this another way in terms of the game, as Garfield takes the place of the owl, promising this child lots of fun with their fire power. But in reality, they were to be used to cause more destruction unknowingly for the entity. The last thing we see on TV, being Felix engulfed in flames, is rather telling of the fact they have fallen into this trap. While this would seem like the end for our child, John, of all people, is outside. Entering the car, we're brought back to the shack in the woods, where we wake up in bed. Leaving the bedroom, we see Garfield sitting in front of the TV. Turning it on reveals another Felix the Cat episode called Ghost Breakers. The plot of this episode follows Felix encountering a ghost after napping in a graveyard. This ghost flies off, causing trouble wherever it goes. First at a barn, then to an old man's home, who strangely calls in the military to try and take it out, which they all fail in. The old man, having fled his home, charges Felix with dealing with the ghost. Felix enters the house, everything shifting about chaotically, leaving Felix stumped, though he lures this ghost outside using some rum, revealing it was actually some really greedy fellow who wanted the old man to sell his property to him, ending the episode. As we know, these episodes tie into the themes of the game's story somewhat. Already, we can take the ghost's invasion of the home as the entity coming into John's home, making it into its domain. Moving on in game, Garfield charges us with finding a surprise that John is hiding from us in the garage. Using a chair to grab a key off the top of the fridge, we can enter this makeshift garage. This was likely what John was up to hammering nails earlier in the game. But inside, we find those same sigils we were asked to paint over at the beginning of the game inside, as well as a running generator, and those same books we saw at the beginning of the game. Stepping in and out of the room causes some kind of interference too, and we'll find out why later. Interacting with this book, we're taken somewhere far away, to what looks like Egypt. This place also has more cat imagery in the form of the Sphinx, and in the final room, we find a man who asks us to place our burden in the chest, this burden being the cat idol. This box also has all those same symbols we saw in the house on it. The moon is full and at its peak, sitting directly above the box in the ritual site. And we find out this ritual is to seal the entity away. We learn the entity can see through our eyes, hears what we hear, but at the same time, depriving ourselves of sight and senses does the same to it. And after placing this blindfold on, we cut to a different perspective. And as the box opens, we see the sun high in the sky, revealing we were watching from the entity's perspective. Then, we suddenly cut to John at a museum all the way back in February. This entity is surprised John came back. Apparently, they had been working together, all for the sake of John getting some of its power the entity possesses. With these books we saw earlier, it's likely both how John discovered this entity and how he has been trying to combat it. But this means everything he and this child have been through is because of his greed. The loss of his tongue, the deaths of those people, all of it is on his hands. And this is yet another thing that somewhat mirrors the events of the episode of Felix the Cat, as this greedy man we see technically harnesses the power of the supernatural for his own means, and inevitably falls because of his own desire for the rum Felix lured him out with. We could even take the illusions the entity slash Garfield creates as being representative of these illusions from the episode. But I'm already beginning to think myself sounding like an insane person. I mean, just listen to my voice right now. I should be sipping soup, not making a video on a Garfield horror game. Nonetheless, we follow the entity's orders, opening its display case and stealing the cat idol, kicking everything off. We cut to much later. Apparently, John has been driving for 2 days straight. Hearing this, we begin to hear a strange ambience, and the entity tells John to let it take over, that it will share its power with him. And we again see that same scene from earlier. John walking up these stairs, through the sigils, and into the sun. The entity's embrace and influence. We cut all the way to April. John's body has been in use by this entity for more than a month, and when John awakes, he's in the midst of being forced to commit his first, or more than likely, one of his latest crimes. This entity is a monster, so there's no telling what it's done. And this time, we've broken into a home. We can hear a baby crying upstairs, and then the lights flick on. A man asking who's there. Then we suddenly cut to black, and then back to reality. Now there's even more blood on John's hands. The house is completely silent, and the voice mockingly asks, "What have you done?" Leading us full circle to September. Now back in the garage. Leaving, we see John shaking his head. Garfield then appears angry, asking what's in the garage. He forces us back inside twice by rewinding time, but on the third, our character falls unconscious, and as we come to, we can leave the garage. And outside, we find those same sigils painted everywhere. Near the one by the door, we see a note. This note explaining what the sigils are, each representing one thing: body, mind, time, and space. Text above reading, "These help keep us safe," which we should have guessed, with the box holding the idol being marked with these same things. I've looked, but these symbols don't seem to have any ties to the real world, so they're a creation of the game itself. On the counter beside a music player and headphones is a note from John, which I'll actually read now. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, and I know that you didn't mean to hurt anyone either. The voice that made you do those things used to make me do those things too. But now that it talks to you, it can't control me, and I've learned how to stop it. When the stars align, we can destroy it. Until then, you'll have to stay inside the house. Put on the headphones and play the music to keep the voice out of your head. Whatever the voice says or shows you, don't believe it. It only wants to hurt people. I'm sorry. John." John is remorseful for his actions. He knows the child's actions were not his own, but now that the voice is no longer in his head, he's free and has discovered that they can stop it. But only when the stars align. In order to stop that voice of the cat from taking hold, we can also use the headphones and song John gave us. And we do just that. It seems now there's hope. Entering the bedroom, we find John asleep on the floor mattress, allowing us the comfort of the bed with sheets. Going to sleep, we cut to standing in front of the calendar. 13 days until the 31st, and we can destroy the entity. Sitting in front of the TV, the child begins to draw those same drawings we saw in the cage. Garfield, however, appears on the TV after seeing what he's drawing. While at first it seems like the child will push them away, it uses their simple mind against them, convincing the child that John is the bad guy, which he really is, but this cat, this entity, is arguably worse. After convincing them the cat is its friend, they leave the house and fall under its influence once again, where we wake in the tower. Heading to the top, we're tasked with shooting down bat bombers. I don't want to think about what these actually are, but upon taking them all down, we're attacked by a dragon! Or John, who drags us back to the house and locks us away in the cage for our own safety. He asks us a series of questions, ranging from how we're feeling to what the entity said to us. We can choose to answer all three or not, but the outcome is always the same. Eventually, we're released from the cage, and as we begin drawing again, the code to the safe appears on one of the pages, likely written by Garfield while we were under his control. The voice in the corner appears for us, and we're commanded to open the safe in the basement. And as we see the idol, we cut back to the tower. This time, we must platform across the clouds while dodging these ungodly, annoying bat bombers. Oh my god, this was such a pain. But as we reach Garfield and Odie, we're free. It's a bit of an overreaction, but as our character seemingly attempts to flee with the idol in hand, we're shot in the chest by John. Our body tumbling down the stairs, lifeless. Soon after, we cut to John's perspective. Our body covered with a blanket in the garage. Closing the door, John can hear the entity's voice again. But this time, you thought you could read a few books and understand the nature of a god. You know nothing of my power. Your sigils may protect that house, but your sacrifice of the child has unshackled me. You want to destroy me when the stars align? Then I shall take the stars from you. And don't worry, you'll see the child again soon enough. Again and again and again, until I take back what is mine. It's only a matter of time before you break. We come full circle. The child is outside again, just as we saw on the TV. This game is an infinite time loop meant to break John. The beginning of this game is truly the end, and the end of this game is truly the beginning. As we approach Garfield the final time, they ask us to fetch the key. But they also say, I just love playing with my food. Don't you? But this isn't all, as holding on to the disc through the entire game causes the child to put the headphones back on, and this message in Morse code to play. I don't know who or what you are, and I don't know what you know. You've been here before, hundreds of times. You've returned to me every day, and every day I must stop you. I've tried killing you. I've tried to keep you alive. Please forgive me. Sometimes I want to give up, but I fear that if the voice is free, we will be tortured even more than this. Please, please forgive me. John is completely aware of the loop himself. He's been forced to live through it hundreds and hundreds of times. Hundreds of times he's been forced to watch in horror as he destroys his own world. This god makes it clear that John has no control from the very beginning. No matter what he does or says, this cycle is fated to repeat until he releases the idol from this prison. But then what? The two of them will more than likely face torture and torment even greater than this if it is freed. Its power is fully realized. The world and the universe beyond this simple plane is gone. All that is left is John and the child. But the sun remains omnipresent. This is something I recognize to be an all-seeing eye. Well, it can see everything but the interior of the house. This explaining why it remains, why its interior isn't idealized or dumbed down like the outside world. All of it is thanks to those sigils. One more thing I find disturbing is that all of those chalk marks likely represent cycles as opposed to days. A cruel reminder of all the harm John has done to the world, time and time again. But I'd like to try and talk a bit about the Egyptian god, Garfield, or this entity we only know as the god Is. While in truth, there really is no god that completely matches up to them, there is one that is a close enough match. The Egyptian god Sekhmet, the goddess of war and destruction. The scorching hot sun of the midday was seen as her breath, and in this game's world, the sun always remains. It's omnipresent, and as we come into her thrall, we walk into the sun. On the other hand, they are also the goddess of healing and medicine, as while they could send disease, they could also cure it. We see in-game that the entity is closely linked to fire, with them literally giving the child firepower in their world, not to mention appearing engulfed in flames several times. They also forced John to burn down the child's house as well. Though after the sacrifice of the child at John's hands, they destroy the world and universe beyond, but allow it to exist once more for the purpose of the cycle repeating itself, so that it can get its idol back. Furthermore, the fact Sekhmet, or this entity in game, thrives on and enjoys slaughter isn't just an addition to make the game more edgy. In one of the best known stories involving Sekhmet, they are sent to Earth to punish mankind, or more specifically, a group of rebels for attempting to rebel against the sun god Ra. Though when she was dispatched, Sekhmet originally was the gentler god Hathor, though upon her descent to Earth, she transformed into Sekhmet. During her rampage as the furious lioness-headed Sekhmet, she utterly decimated the rebels. But her rage went even further, with her going as far as to nearly wipe humanity out in its entirety, drinking their blood as she did so. Ra, regretting his decision in allowing such destruction, ordered his servants to bring him 7,000 jars of beer, all of which was mixed with a red substance, some believe pomegranate juice, making it appear like human blood. This beer was then poured across the fields, and when Sekhmet found it, she drank it down, becoming incredibly drunk, where she passed out for days on end, and eventually returned to her original state as the god Hathor. I went on a bit of a tangent there, though this does explain why Garfield, or Sekhmet, craves violence so deeply. They feed upon it, and if allowed into the greater world in this unshackled state once more, the destruction will likely be total, if it already isn't. Now, I already feel like an insane person for some of these comparisons, but I'm sick and still must keep up the weekly upload schedule. I kind of fumbled these past few weeks with everything that's happened in my life. So, I'll end it there. If you, the viewer, see something I didn't really explore, I implore you to tell me in the comments below. I'm slowly but surely trying to get better and better at my craft, and it's only with criticism and advice from those of you who watch my videos that I can get better. I mean, just watch my first horror video, and then watch this one again. It's quite literally night and day. But with that, we've reached the end of our video. We're so close to our goal of 20k now, and our server's almost at 700 members. I implore you to both subscribe and join the Discord server. On screen right now is also art from some of the wonderful folks there, and maybe even a song from the musicians also in the server. It's also the only place where I can really guarantee I'll see your horror recommendations, so there's that too. If you don't mind me, I really need some bed rest. I'm Dregobob, hoping you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye bye!